All right, everybody, this is our last lesson, 9.5, factoring quadratic binomials. So everything we've done above are trinomials, okay? So today we're going to talk about how do we do it if we have a binomial. So just remember that standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are just numbers, okay? So that's going to be kind of important when we kind of handle these binomials, okay? There's two different types of binomials that you can run into. So look at these two. What do you notice? What do they have in common? What do they have in what's different? Okay. So hopefully, if you pause and look at that for long enough, you could probably think is, oh, well, this one doesn't have an x, and this one has an x. So this is like the constant. This is like the c, and this is like the b. So the difference between that is kind of important on how we're going to treat those. So you got to keep that in mind. Okay, let's first look at an example like this. When you have the x squared and a constant, like a number without a variable, we can still do glasses. Okay, we can write this more like x squared plus 0x minus 9. Okay. There's no greatest common factor here, so we can go straight and do our glasses. So we know that this is going to go here, and we know that this is going to be here. We just need to figure out what do we need to change to that 0x to make it so we have 4 terms. All right, so we need to find two things that multiply to give us negative 9x squared, and this time it's going to add up to give us 0x. So factor pairs for 9 are going to be 1 and 9 or 3 and 3. And the only thing that's going to make that be 0 is if they're exactly the same. Okay? So 3 and 3 has got to do it, but one's got to be negative 3 and one's got to be positive 3. So once we found that to work, and if we multiply that, that would still work for the other, for the top, then we can just say, well, this will be a negative 3x and a positive 3x. We can factor out an x and a 3 and an x and a negative 3. So our answer here would be x plus 3 and x minus 3. Okay? So kind of the hint here is if the middle term's missing, it will always happen to be that the two numbers that will make it work are the same numbers. Just one's going to be positive and one's going to be negative. That's the only way to have that middle term cancel out to give you a 0. Okay? So, in fact, it's also going to be, the same number would be like the square root of that number. So the square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 25 is 5. Okay? So kind of think about that when you do it. So we have this box. We know that's got to be x squared, and that's got to be negative 25, okay? But what's going to work to make it multiply to give us negative 25 and add or subtract to give us a 0? Okay, well, again, it's got to be the same number, but opposite sign, like 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. But if we did negative 5 and 5, then that would give us that 0 that we're looking for. Okay? So here we'd get negative 5x and 5x, and then we could factor out an x and a 5 and an x and a negative 5. So we'd get x plus 5 and x minus 5. Okay? So you probably kind of, if you find the pattern here, it probably can go a little quicker as we go along, okay? So here we got this box, x squared and negative 49. To make that middle term cancel out, would have to do basically the square root of 49, which is going to be 7. So we'll do a positive 7 and a negative 7. So we got x and negative 7, and x and positive 7. So we got x minus 7 and x plus 7. Okay, and again, the order of those parentheses don't matter. Okay, so why don't you pause and give these ones a try. All right, so again, if you want to write it all out, you're welcome to. You could do something like this. And it needs to multiply to give us a negative 1x squared, and adds to give us 0x. So the only factor pairs for 1 is just 1 and 1. So 1's got to be positive, 1's got to be negative. Okay, so we'd have x squared. Again, that 0x is that negative 1x plus 1x. And we can use that box. So x squared minus 1x and 1x and negative 1. So it's got to be x and 1 and x and negative 1. So x plus 1 and x minus 1. Okay? So depending on how well you're understanding this or on how you feel about it, some of this you can do it a lot quicker than going through all of that. So like I would be okay to just say, well, here's my box, x squared, negative 81, okay? So what are the factor pairs that can give us 81? And they have to be the same number, right? So it's got to be 9 and 9. So we'll do one will be a positive 9, and one will be a negative 9. Okay, because then if you add those together, that would give us 0. So we got x and negative 9 and x and a positive 9. Okay, so that's that. If you ever run into something like that, there will still be some that you might need to take out the greatest common factor first. So what do you do? What do you look for first when you factor? Greatest common factor. So example A, there's not a greatest common factor, okay? So here we can do our box, x squared and negative 36. Again, to make the middle term be gone, you got to do the same number but opposite sign. So like negative 6 and positive 6. So x and 6 and x and negative 6. Okay. But like C, there is a greatest common factor. If you don't take out the greatest common factor, then you're going to run into issues. So you'll take out that 2. And then we can do that box, okay? So x squared and 100, and then what does that need to be? Well, it'd have to be, again, the trick here is, that might help, is that if the middle term is missing, you can do the square root of that number, and it gives you the two numbers that are the same, okay? So that would give you a 10. So you do like 10x and negative 10x. So we got x and negative 10 and x and positive 10. So x plus 10 and x minus 10. But again, we took out this greatest common factor, so that will be part of our answer. All right, just some more examples. Greatest common factor. You can take out a 3 here. Here you can take out a leading negative. Again, that will matter. If you don't take it out, you're going to run into issues. And then you can do the same sort of thing, okay? So here we've got what? X squared minus 4. This has got to be, the square root of 4 is 2, so we'll do negative 2x and a positive 2x. So we can take out an x and a 2 and an x and a negative 2. So 3, x plus 2, x minus 2. Same thing here. You got x squared, negative 16. So square root of 16 is 4. So we do like negative 4x and a positive 4x. So x and 4 and x and negative 4. So we got that greatest common factor, x plus 4 and x minus 4. Okay, so that's it. If you have a binomial and the middle term is missing, then we can do the same sort of thing. We can use the box. It's just going to happen that these two numbers have to be the same, but their signs are opposite in order to have that middle term be 0 or missing. All right. What about if c is 0, like that constant is 0 or missing? Well, first thing we should always write down is c, is there a greatest common factor? Well, there is a greatest common factor. We could take out an x, and that would give us x minus 9. And what do you know? This is fully factored, okay? We know it's fully factored because in this parenthesis, we can't factor out anything else, and it's not squared, okay? So this is more going back to what we did in Unit 8, okay? So if the constant's missing, that's all you can do is take out the greatest common factor. So we can take out an x, divide everything by x, and we get x minus 2. Here we could take out an x, divide everything by x, and we'd get x plus 1. Okay? Why don't you give b and d a try? So it looks like we'd take out 3 and x, and we get x plus 2. And then here, greatest common factor would be a negative x. So we have a leading negative, and we can also take out an x. So we get x minus 4. Okay? And that's it. If you have any questions, let me know. I know this is a little tricky maybe, but worst case scenario, I would revert to this, just rewriting it with a 0, and then do the exact same thing that you've always done. Okay? All right, we'll see you later.